we're going to be talking about the Arcline today, and it's a little bit crazy because this right here, this deity's doing a particular pose. It's like this, and it's the exact pose that we're doing for the Arcline today. That's just okay. I'm looking through my sets. Okay, I got to do the Arcline. Sure, there's 8.4 million Kriyas in Kundalini, but for the Arcline, there's specific things, and it was this one. And I'm like, what? And so the Arcline is really interesting because it's a halo, and it's a protective energy. Right? Your gift number is an Arcline, and if your gift number is an Arcline, you can go into dangerous situations, and you're going to be protected. You know, but we all have the Arcline, so even if it's not your gift, you can work on it. Your gift number is your third number. There's the soul number, and there's the karma number, gift number, destiny, and path numbers. I'll do your numbers, Joe. Let you know.
I don't understand. So the gift number doesn't necessarily have to be an Arcline? And what is an Arcline?
Well, there's 10 bodies. And this is like the class on the 10 spiritual bodies of yoga. And it's a way to understand our soul's journey through the human psyche, from birth till death. So we start out as a soul, and then we become aware of ourselves through the 3 minds. So first is the negative mind, like, oh, I'm not that. And like a child when he's 2 or 3, and he's like, no, no, no. And then the third body is the mental, is the positive, or projective mind, right? The negative is the protective, right? And the Arcline is actually the projective and the protective. It's the protective shield, but it's also projective like a flare, like a solar flare, right? That projects out. But the solar flare doesn't actually reach the Earth. It creates a wave of atomic particles that reach the Earth. Because if you go out into space, it's just freezing, cold. And there's a bunch of live, frozen bacteria just floating around in space, looking to just land on some kind of planet and start Earth, or start, another Earth, or a planet, whatever, that has life on it. And that's what the whole universe is like. It's just made up of life. And this is what scientists have, just realized. Once we get to the positive mind, the neutral mind is where we get out of duality. And it's also called the meditative mind. And that's when we're like, oh, okay, there's the negative protective mind, and there's the positive projective mind, and I see those, and I'm neither of those. Okay? There's a form, and I embody this form, but I'm not this form. I can be in it, I can be out of it, I can be objective, and the fifth body is the physical body. And that's our gateway of consciousness, the threshold between the body-mind of the first 4 bodies and the spirit-mind of the ones that we're working on now, starting with the Arcline. And so when you do the numerology, it's going to be a number 1 through 9, or 1 through 11 for our purposes. Because there's 10 bodies, and then there's an 11th embodiment, which is all the bodies together. So when I do people's numbers, it's going to be one of these spiritual bodies. So yours, for instance, happens to be a 6, which is the Arcline body, and that happens to be the class that we're working on. So I've emailed you like a few of your spiritual numbers, and you a couple of them, and Joe and I'll do that for you.
What are names and birthdays?
Yeah. Yeah, just give it to my gal, and we'll work with that. So, yeah, as I was saying, like the protection that we get from the Arcline, we can go into any kind of dangerous situation, and things are filtered out by the power of our Arcline. So the negativity is filtered out. Right? But also at the same time, we have this protective shield. It's like an invisible shield around us. For women, they have an extra Arcline that goes with their chest from here to here.
Why is that?
With women, women have 11 moon centers. Men have 1. It may sound funny, but their 1 is on their chin.
What's a moon center?
Moon centers is like a whole class that we'll have to talk about sometime. But there's 11 moon centers on a female, 1 on a male, and it has to do with the energy of the moon and Earth, because we know that we're affected by the moon, right? When it's a full moon, when it's a new moon, the tides, you go, and then we're mostly water, so we know that we're affected by all that. So there's certain cycles that women go through every 2.5 days. They'll go to a different moon center. So a man, if he knows about these moon centers and sees a woman going through a particular emotional place, he can go like, oh, she's in this particular center of her moon centers, and then he can kind of know how to handle her for the next 2.5 days. Not handle her, but be with her. And so you can kind of, so this is the yogic science, but we'll get into that as we progress. But so we can stay on, point.
Neutral mind.
Huh?
Trying to stay in my neutral mind right now.
Neutral mind, good. Well, yeah, it's not about because men, with the one center, right? So like men who are overly masculine, they can grow hair on their chin, and this will help them to harmonize with their feminine nature as well. So the effect of the Arcline is beyond physical reality. It goes into all realities. Right? It's actually an interdimensional guide for ourselves. So we see it in all the iconography of saints and Jesus. That's what we're working with. And so it's a filter of negativity when we empower this part of ourselves. So we're safe. We can go into any place and we're going to be all right. And let's see, is there anything else I'd like to cover before we jump right in? What they say about this is that it's the power of the mother's prayer. When your Arcline is refined and powerful, it's as powerful as the mother's prayer. And what Yogi Bhajan said, there's nothing more powerful than the prayer of a mother. It's the most powerful thing in the world. As you know, there's a lot of examples through time. It goes actually throughout the whole body. But the main 2 points that we identified with this body is here for the men and women, and then just here for the female. So,
Like all the way around that way, or
it's from ear to ear,
okay.
so it's going across the 2 hemispheres of the brain, and then it goes through it. And then here, it's just, as far as what I know from my studies, it just goes straight through here. But then it also goes through the body.
And it's like internal, or is it on the etheric?
It's internal, but it's etheric because everything is etheric when we break it down to the source.
So is that the halo that they depicted? Or?
Yes, that's the halo of the Arcline. I haven't seen in any iconography really the Arcline being represented here for the female, but of course we see it all over up here. And so really, like, this is about integrity too. So I'm just going to get all this stuff out so we can talk about it before we start. Because once we get started, I want to just keep rolling. Because the Arcline is really about assimilation. So it's about large intestines. This is the last part of assimilation that we have before things leave our body. And it's about our lungs. It's about bringing in energy. And it's about our skin. Right? So the skin is the largest organ of the body. We get rid of wastes. The lungs is our most intimate connection to the outside because we're breathing in, exhaling. And then the intestines to get rid of stuff. And so as far as integrity, I can give you a little example of like Gandhi. Right? So when Gandhi was around, he's a little busy guy. He was like, running a country, feeding millions of people, but he would take appointments. And so one time a mother came in with her kid and said like, hey, can you get my kid to stop eating sugar? Gandhi's like, yeah, I'll come back in a few days. And so the mother comes back with the kid a few days later, and Gandhi looks at the kid and goes, stop eating sugar. And the kid was like, and the kid stopped eating sugar. And then before that happened, the mom was like getting ready to leave, and she's like, why did you make us come back? And 3 days later, why did you just say it back then? He said, because I had to quit eating sugar first myself. So he had to first come into integrity with himself. Right? So, but there's one caveat that I want to tell you guys about too. So I want to just cover all this. I know we can cut things a little bit if I'm pausing too long, but it's important not to project who you think you should be, especially if you have a perfect ideal that you are trying to live up to. So first of all, we have the need to understand ourselves, warts and all of who we are. Because integrity is integration. And it's the integration of our dark and light selves that we all have. Right? Because it's only through assimilating our darkness that we can fully be whole. Or a union, which is basically the root meaning of what yoga is. It's about holism, holisticness, being completely ourselves. Alright, so let's jump right in. And if you get down to it, what yoga is really all about is mixing the nervous system with the glandular system, working with the spine in such a way that it raises the human potential of the kundalini, lighting all the chakras up to the top, to the pineal gland, where the cup full of amrit, of bliss, then tips over, and we are in a state of our highest potential. So we're going to start out just warming up the chakras a little bit, okay? Let's rub the hands together first. And let's tune in. Let's all inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. And let's inhale to begin. That have come before us, that are here now, and that will be with us down the line. And now I'm going to say a little Sanskrit for protection for all of us. Adgudev Name, Jagadgudev Name, Satgurudev Name, Siddhi Gurudev Name. And let's start to do the Sufi grind to the right. Warming up the spine, warming up the first chakra. Inhaling as we go back. Exhaling as we come forward. Let's go the other direction.